Hi, I'm Holliday, and this is Chloroform and Chillz. I'm on my boneless couch. And today we're going to be chilling today. I know I said that I was supposed to record the Freeway Phantom, but listen, I've been overthinking. It's hot, y'all. I've been overthinking something a little too hard, and I think I got it down pat. I'm gonna try to implement it in this video to see how it goes. So what I'm trying to do is to add a missing person or a person that is wanted for murder at the end of each video. But I just be so worried that, like, what if I don't get the video out in time and they find the wanted person or they find the person that's missing, and then I'm just like giving out all information. So it's like I've been really overthinking that. It's probably nothing that serious to overthink, but I am. Whatever. But today's case, as you can see from the title, we are in Philadelphia today. We're in Philly, my hometown, and we are in North Philadelphia to be exact. Today we're going to talk about the Cookie Monster, aka Harrison Graham. It's 1987 and it's a hot summer in Philadelphia. You call your landlord due to this really bad smell of rotting meat. You call your landlord and you complain that the smell is coming from your neighbor's house who is right next door to you. Your landlord tries to address the issue with your neighbor, but your neighbor just won't come to the door. Your landlord keeps trying to address the problem of the rotting meat smell with your neighbor. Your landlord is telling your neighbor you are being evicted for whatever this weird rotting smell coming from your apartment is. But that doesn't happen. Your neighbor still doesn't come to the front door. Instead, you and the landlord hear your neighbor boarding up his door, like nails being hammered into the front door to keep it locked. Your landlord at the time finally yells at your neighbor through the door, "I'm calling the police." Literally, 911, what's your emergency? The door still doesn't open. But little do you and your landlord know, your neighbor just escaped out of the fire escape and he took something odd with him. He took a stuffed animal that is the Cookie Monster. Soon the police arrive and they smell the rotting meat smell as well. But to police, this isn't rotting meat. This is a very distinguishable smell of decomposition. Police knock and they get no answer. So police, due to the smell and more probable cause, they kick down the damn door. First, the smell is overwhelming police. They're trying to figure out what the hell is going on. They let the apartment air out a little bit and then they proceed inside. Immediately, they are met with the sight of a dead black woman on the floor who is naked. Police step a little bit more into the apartment and they find another black woman, deceased, but she's partially clothed. Taken in the sight of two deceased women, police point of view start to open up a little bit more and they realize this apartment is filled with trash, at least 40 meters high, which is almost a foot and a half tall. Police call homicide and CSI to the scene. CSI, while combing through all the trash and debris, they find more remains of more women. They find a skeleton of a woman under dirty mattresses, traces of blood and drugs and alcohol bottles. In the closet, they find skeletonized, that was hard for me to say, skeletonized remains wrapped in a blanket of two more women. We are now at a total of 5 bodies of women that have been murdered inside this apartment. Investigators decide to shut down the whole apartment building and they decide to search the building from top to bottom. And oh, do they find more. On the roof, they find a green duffel bag with more women's remains in them. They're skeletonized, so it's a skeleton. Inside the duffel bag, they find bones of hands, feet, and legs. They then go to the basement and they find all the remains of another woman that are skeletonized as well. They find a rib cage, skull, and a pelvic bone. This is the 7th victim. All the bodies found in this apartment in North Philadelphia were severely decomposed, except the first 2 when police walked into the apartment. With all these bodies of black women being found in this apartment, who's this neighbor that ran out on the fire escape and took a Cookie Monster doll? The neighbor and killer of those women is Harris Graham, aka the Cookie Monster Killer, who also goes by the name Marty. Who is Harrison Marty Graham? Harrison Graham was born September 9th, 1959 in Philadelphia. His mother is Lillian Graham, and Lillian Graham had Harrison Graham, or we'll just call him Graham, at a very young age. She was struggling to take care of him, so she made a really tough decision and she decided to put Graham Graham into foster care. It is suspected that Graham possibly went through physical and sexual abuse while in foster care. He was in foster care until the age of 7, and then a family came along and took him in long term. During his time away from his mother, Lillian, she ended up actually having 4 more kids. So Graham is the oldest of his siblings. During the time that Graham was in foster care, Lillian did keep an open relationship with her son. She was always notified when he was sick or went to the hospital or how he was doing in school. Lillian was notified when Graham was 12 years old that he was being sent to a mental facility at the age of 12. Lillian has said that she was informed that Graham was suffering from some type of mental illness or mental disorder. Graham went to Alani High School. School was a challenge for Graham. He actually was struggling due to intellectual disabilities. They actually even gave Graham an IQ test and he scored at 63. An average IQ test is usually between 89 and 100, I believe. No, 110. Anything below 70 is intellectual disabilities. School was so challenging for Graham that he was not reading. His brain at the time was testing in a 3rd grade level. And during this time, Graham couldn't even read a clock. He couldn't tell time at all. During this time in school, Graham was absent a lot and failing all his classes. So he just decided to drop out. He just stopped going. Due to Graham dropping out of high school, he ended up homeless and on the street. And that can be a very vulnerable place for somebody young and somebody who is mentally ill and has intellectual disabilities. Even though it was pretty dangerous at the time for Graham, he actually ended up flourishing being homeless because he was able to find community. He was able to find other people that were suffering just like him, but they had each other. So it made it all a good time for him. But sadly, somebody would come into Graham's life that really took advantage of him. A sex trafficker or a pimp, even though I think those words, I think they both have different meanings, but a pimp ended up befriending Graham, taking him under his wing, and he started to sell Graham's body to other people. But first, the pimp decided to give Graham some type of love and care before selling out his body. Graham, not knowing any better, having intellectual disabilities, being mentally ill, he thought this was what real love was, and it's not. Anybody that has to sell your body, they do not love you. Lillian, Graham's mother, years go on and she's actually notified that her son is actually on the street selling his body. So she actually is in a better place. She's more stable. She has a house. She has a job. She actually goes out and looks for her son, and she actually takes her son off of the street and bring him into her house so he can live with her and get to a stable place. So Graham went to go live with his mother, and then 1970 starts to roll around. Graham gets a job in construction. From working in construction, Graham is able to actually move out of his mother's house and get himself a townhouse in North Philadelphia. Graham was well known by all the neighbors. He actually was the neighborhood handyman. And he would go outside and play football or basketball or go on walks with the children of the neighborhood. I'm not really shocked that he was out playing football or basketball with children, because when he was in high school, he was at a 3rd grade level. Now that he's like a full adult, he's only operating at a 9th grade level. So he still has a childlike mind, but at the same time, he's just in an adult body, I guess you can say. And he's very athletic and tall. This is just great. Everything is really working out for Graham right now. But that's until Graham's mental health starts to creep up on him. Graham was diagnosed with multiple personality disorder, which now today is called DID, which is dissociative identity disorder. He was diagnosed during his stay at the mental health hospital. But what is DID, right? DID, I'm going to read it word for word because I don't want to be wrong in any way. A complex mental health condition where a person's identity is fragmented into 2 or more distinctive personality states, aka alters. It is generally a coping mechanism stemming from severe recurring childhood trauma. Graham has three different personalities, and we're going to go through all three. His first personality, or his alter, is himself, which is Harris Marty Graham, which goes by Marty. Marty, his alter, is a kind man, a God-fearing man, a helpful man, and he loves his mother. And the alter, Marty, was actually able to obtain a girlfriend, a long-term girlfriend named Robin. His second personality, or second alter, is a kid named Junior inside of himself. This is the personality that would play with the kids outside with the football, basketball, go on walks. This alter or personality had toys, it had stuffed animals, it would play around in his apartment when he had the time to play. Also, Junior, the alter Junior or personality, adored this one stuffed animal, which was the Cookie Monster, and it made him feel safe. You know, some kids have like a safety blanket. So this stuffed animal was basically his emotional support doll. Yeah, let's go with that, an emotional support doll. Graham's third personality or alter is Frank. Frank was a nasty alter slash personality. Frank was rude, mean, on drugs, an alcoholic, and hated women. But Frank also enjoyed having sex with men. We have now run through all of Graham's personalities, and we have talked about his mental health starting to creep up on him. Graham just kept getting sicker and sicker and sicker, and he really fell into drugs and alcohol really bad, which ended with him having to leave his construction job. He even had to move out of his nice townhouse because he couldn't afford the rent, and he ended up moving from a townhouse to an apartment in another part of North Philadelphia, but the buildings were abandoned but not abandoned, a lot of vacant areas, and the rent was cheap, so whatever works. Due to the neighborhood not being the best, Graham's third personality or alter, Frank, would come out more often because in the neighborhood there were a lot of drug dealers. And his alter or personality, Frank, decided to make friends with all the drug dealers. So that means that Frank, who is Graham, could get drugs anytime he wanted because he would actually do small things for these drug dealers. But as time went on, Graham started to really succumb to more drugs and alcohol. He wasn't really able to help anybody in the neighborhood anymore. So his third personality, Frank, or the alter Frank, would be more present and in charge of Graham's body and mind. Since Frank was the one that took over Graham's body, one night Frank ended up killing Robin. Yes, Graham's long-term girlfriend. Graham, aka Frank, ended up strangling Robin during sex. Robin is Graham's first victim. For some odd reason, Graham's third personality, Frank, really hated Robin. Don't know why, but he did. Frank decided that Robin had to go. So he had a little party with Robin, and during sexual intercourse, he ended up strangling her. After killing Robin, Frank, who is Graham, ended up killing 6 more women after her. After Frank took over and did his dirty work, Graham would be the one to clean up and dispose of the bodies after Frank did whatever he wanted with these women. I know it sounds like I'm talking about 2 different people, but I'm talking about one person with different alters and personalities inside their body and mind. Graham ended up disposing of Robin's body by cutting her up, dismembering her, placing some of her remains in one area and placing the others in another area. He decided to take Robin's remains and put them in a green duffel bag on top of the roof. Then her other parts of her body, he decided to bury in a basement on the apartment grounds somewhere. After killing and disposing of Robin, Graham ended up going on a bender. And this, in fact, made Frank more present than anything. He went on a bender of alcohol and drugs and always seeking women to party. And since he was on this bender, Frank, who is Graham, would invite women over to party. To these women, Frank, who is Graham, who is an alter of Graham, would offer these women a good time, So drugs, sex, alcohol, food, anything. All to most of these women suffer from substance abuse or alcoholism. Each woman would come over, would party with Frank, and they would somehow end up strangled. These victims are, not in order, but Cynthia Brooks, she was 27 years old. Valerie Jamison, 24 years old. Mary Jeter Mathis, 36 years old. Barbara Mahoney, 22 years old. Robin DeShare, 29 years old. Sarah Gravin, 33 years old. And Patricia Franklin, 24 years old. These are all 7 women who fell victim to Harrison Graham, but at the time he was his alter Frank. Cynthia Brooks was just trying to have a good night out. She was just trying to have some fun, maybe a little drinking, a little music, a little fun time. And Graham, but at the time was Frank, ended up strangling her. And then there was Sarah Gravin. She was actually a resident of Frank's apartment building, and same thing, she just wanted to party, a good time, and she ended up strangled by Graham, who at the time was Frank. Valerie Jamison, same thing, she wanted to party, have a good time, ended up strangled by Frank, who is Graham. Patricia Franklin, sadly her remains were very hard to identify. When they found her remains, she was severely decomposed, and it was the same thing, she wanted to party, have a good time, drug, alcohol possibly, and Frank, who is Graham, ended up strangling her. Mary Jeter Mathis, same thing, party, good time, strangled. Barbara Mahoney, same thing, party, good time, strangled by Graham, who is Frank. I really hope the victims are at peace, because 7 women went missing and nobody noticed. And I understand it's 1987, but nobody noticed that these women went missing. I understand that they probably were having some issues with substance abuse, but nobody was really looking for them. For example, Robin's family didn't even know she was dead. Nobody came looking for her. That's just so sad. So I really hope they are resting. I hope their souls are easy. I hope they are not roaming around the North Philadelphia section where this apartment was, because again, energies die a violent way. I just hope their souls aren't fragmented in that one time and it's on a loop or something. I'm praying that they were able to find peace. They say after killing multiple people, it kind of gets addictive. And what we know from Graham is that he does have addiction issues with alcohol and drugs. So I guess the next addiction was murdering women. After killing all 7 women and hiding the remains in the apartment under filthy mattresses or trash, dirty blankets, Graham's apartment started to smell. Remember, we're in Philly summer, and we're in spring right now, and it's hot right now. So I know Philly summer, it was hot. And since his apartment started to smell, that's when the landlord was called. And we're right back to where we started. And your neighbor, Harrison Graham, aka Marty, aka Junior, aka Frank, is now on the run for killing 7 women. Graham was put on a list for wanted fugitives. What is wild is that Graham was able to evade authorities for a while. People were actually even calling in tips saying that they saw him at fast food restaurants like McDonald's, Burger King. They saw him at a car wash. They saw him on public transportation. He was everywhere and anywhere, and police were not able to catch him. People were even seeing Graham at homeless shelters. And usually at homeless shelters, you sleep there, right? So how were y'all not able to get him? After a while, Graham actually got tired of running and he decided to go find his mother. Yes, he went straight to Lillian's house, and Lillian was able to convince her son to turn himself in. Lillian at the time was a very deeply religious woman, and she told her son that you gotta repent. You gotta turn yourself in. You gotta take responsibility for killing all these women. And it worked. Graham ended up turning himself in. Police took Graham into custody and he ended up immediately confessing to all the murders. They didn't have to do any real interrogation. He came right out and said it. Graham confessed to strangling all the women. during sex. But one victim was strangled due to her finding another victim's remains in the apartment. So technically with her, he freaked out and she saw the dead woman on the floor, so he decided to strangle her. Investigators knew Graham was being truthful because actually the autopsies did show that two of the women were strangled or murdered 10 days before police ended up reaching Graham's apartment. And the other 5 women remains were actually skeletons at this point, which means that the other 5 victims died 6 to 12 months ago. And you know what? Hearing that, God, his apartment must have smelled horrible. And it probably smelled horrible after the first woman dying and him. Well, the first woman was Robin. He put her on the roof in the basement. So maybe after the second woman and he put her in the closet or in trash. I know his apartment was smelling bad. It wasn't only the trash smelling like that. And you know what? I know it's crazy, not victim blaming. I can't believe women actually stayed after smelling the apartment. But I will say, Graham is 6 foot, athletic build, strong man. So you probably get into that situation and you're like, oh, I'm fucked. And you don't even know how to get out because he's stronger than you. He could take you down in a minute. And he's technically psychotic right now because he's not Graham, he's Frank. And Frank hates women. Right? The alter Frank hates women. So he would have took her, any of the victims down immediately if they tried to leave and get out and call the police. During Graham's investigation, he did let police know that I'm not the killer, but somebody else inside of me is, which is his personality, Frank, or alter Frank. And just from investigators speaking to Graham, they could tell that something was off. They could tell that he wasn't all the way there. March 7, 1988, Harrison Graham's trial started. Harrison Graham, aka Frank, aka Junior, aka Marty, decided to not have a jury trial. Graham wasn't trying to fight his charges at all. He fully admitted to killing all 7 women and just wanted to be sentenced for his crimes. Prosecutors of Philadelphia at the time, though, were seeking the death penalty for Graham. Graham's lawyer, Joel Mowiski, asked for leniency. He asked for leniency for Graham because Graham has intellectual disabilities. Graham is mentally disabled in some way. He is having mental health issues right now as we speak. Graham's lawyer also believes that Graham can't even tell right from wrong. And the piling up of his drug addiction and alcohol, he just couldn't handle his impulses. And his impulses led him to killing 7 women. On April 28, 1988, Harrison Graham was found guilty of killing 7 women and 7 counts of desecrating human remains. Harrison Graham was given 6 death sentences and a life sentence. The court did give Graham some leniency. Graham had to complete his life sentence and then he can be put to death. After hearing the verdict and what his sentencing would be, Graham looked to his lawyer and asked if he could have his Cookie Monster doll back. During the investigation, Graham's Cookie Monster doll was seized by investigators for evidence. Graham was given back his Cookie Monster doll, his emotional support doll. And he's still alive to this day. Harrison Graham, aka Junior, aka Marty, aka Frank, is 66 years old this year. He'll be 67 in September. So yeah, that is our case. That one was a wild one, especially for Philly. Wow. Wow. So now that we're at the end of our case, I want to try to bring in a segment of trying to get the word about somebody that's wanted. Okay. This person, Zaire Manning, is wanted with other people in crew. He is wanted for killing a woman named Imani Ringgold. She was 20 years old and she was coming back from getting food. And it was a situation where it was mistaken identity. She was totally innocent. They pulled up on her in a Mazda and they fired at her. She was shot 18 times. And also 2 other people were injured. Yeah. And they have a $5,000 reward for if you can find him. So let's get the word out and try to find this person. That is our case. That is our wanted person of the week. This was a journey. I hope that we could keep going. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see everyone later. Bye.